Question 12, a massive 21 marks for this one, the never-ending question really. Anyway, let's see what's going on. It's estimated 20% of small businesses fail, takes a random sample of 500, and an analyst suggests use of binomial, which is unusual. Normally we're not told that a distribution is binomial. It's left to us to pick it up from the story. Anyhow, we are asked part A for the first 2 marks. What's the chance that at most 120 businesses fail in the first year? So we'll grab our class pad. It's a simple binomial. Probability that X is less than or equal to 120. So interactive, distribution, discrete, binomial, cumulative. Less than 120 would be 0 to 120. The number of trials is 500. And the probability of it happening is 0.2 and a couple of executes, and we're in there. It's very likely 0.9877 to 4 decimal places. Then part B, what is the approximate distribution of the sample proportion? So this is the word approximate is a clue. That's because we're going to approximate the distribution here with a normal distribution. The formula sheet's got everything we need, the mean and the standard deviation over here. So here we go. The mean is just simply the proportion 0.2, and the variance is 0.2. 1 minus 0.2 is 0.8 all over 500, which is 0.0032. So we say it's a normal distribution with this mean and this variance. The normal distribution, we had to justify our answer. Why is the normal? So that just means we've always got to check that the sample size is large, typically above 30. There's other tests such as NP and N1 minus P are both larger than 10. So I've quoted those statistics here. NP is 100 and N1 minus P is 400, both much larger than 10. So for part C, this one comes up most years, and there's a couple of ways of doing it. What's the probability that the sample proportion of businesses that fail is less than 0.18? So we've just we've got 2 possible distributions to use to answer this. The accurate way of doing it is using the binomial one that we used in part A. We just have to work out how many fails that we require. So to get a proportion of less than 0.18 here, that means 0.18 times 500 is 90. So to get fewer than 90 fails, we want the probability that X is less than or equal to 89. So that would just mean changing, well, let's keep that one in case we need it. And we'll just bring it down to a new line, change this number to 89, and we can see the probability is 0.1193. So that's the accurate way. Less accurately is to use the normal distribution that we just it is the approximate distribution, it's not the exact. So that's why this method is less accurate. But we could just use this normal distribution and work out the probability of getting a proportion of less than 0.18. So that would be interactive distribution, continuous normal. We want a proportion between negative infinity, really, isn't it? There we should pop in. So from negative infinity to 0.18. Where's my decimal point gone? From 18. And the standard deviation was the square root, so I just the square root of 0.3032, close the brackets, and the mean was 0.2. And when we fire that one up, then it comes out slightly differently, 0.13. Here it is in bigger, 1318. So 2 ways of getting it. This is the accurate answer, but I'm pretty sure the markers will accept either if you've explained your methodology on that one. Then for the next part, D, by January, 90 of 500 new businesses had failed, and we want a 95% confidence interval. So it's 2 marks. There's a couple of ways of doing it. I tend to always jump into my e-activity to do these just because it's so much quicker. So I'm into my e-activity. Confidence interval for a proportion. I hit the square root, open it up, and on the top line, just change these first couple of parameters. We have 90 out of 500, and we wanted a 95% confidence interval, so we leave this parameter as 0.95. Press execute. I should have changed to decimal mode before I did that. Let's run it one more time. And here's all the methodology that you could need to end up with 0.1463 to 0.2137 to 4 decimal places. So we've got the proportion, 0.18. We've got the Z-score for the 95%, 1.96 coming out of this line. Then we've got the standard deviation here, which is simply the square root of the variance that we had earlier. Here it is, 0.0171. And then the margin of error, 0.03. But in this case, for 2 marks, I'm pretty sure we're just going to be happy with this. And then we need to turn the page to carry on. So over the page, the story continues. So now we've got another random sample of 500 businesses where they've changed something. They've given them some regular financial advice. And at the end of this year, only 80 businesses had failed. And here we go again. We're getting, this time we're going to get a few more marks for our confidence interval. We're asked to calculate the new sample proportion and its margin of error at the 95% level. So from ClassPad, all we really got to do here is change that 9 to an 8 and fire it up. So the proportion is now 0.16. That's got to be worth a mark. And the margin of error is the Z-score, which is still 1.96, multiplied by the standard deviation, which is slightly less now. So here's our new margin of error, so 0.0321. And then part F says calculate the 95% confidence interval. So we've already got that sitting waiting for us at the bottom of the screen here. We just show the examiners how we calculated it. We take the 0.16 and add and subtract from it the margin of error and get the upper and lower bands. So then I'm guessing that's maybe 1 or 2 marks at most. And then the other 2 marks are from coming up with a conclusion here. So we've got to look at what's happened here, and did the value of the financial advice provided to the business change anything? So the expected proportion before was 20%, and this interval doesn't contain 20%. So it seems like on the basis of this one confidence interval that the expected failure rate of 20% is not correct. And so we would say that because the upper band of the interval is less than 0.2, there is some evidence to conclude that the advice has reduced the number of failures on that one. And then part G, we're asked if the sample size was reduced, what would be the effect on the confidence interval? So that's just a standard one really here, that the width of the confidence interval would increase as the width is inversely proportional to the sample size. Again, from our formula sheet, here's the margin of error, and you can see from this formula, what was the parameter we were? The sample size was reduced, that's it. So as n goes down, the margin of error is going to increase on that one, and so the confidence interval would get wider. So that was our 2 marks there, and then to finish off, we've got to state 2 assumptions for our that the analyst made in recommending the use of the binomial, and discuss whether they're valid. So the binomial model requires that the probability of each success or failure is constant, and I'd say so. I'm guessing there's 1 mark, and then we're going to get the second for saying it's not a valid assumption, because it's quite likely that some businesses will have a better management and so less likely to fail than a poorly managed business. So I think it's fairly unlikely that the probabilities that any individual business is going to fail is a constant. And then the second assumption is that the events are independent of each other. So this is a fairly reasonable assumption, as the failure of one business is unlikely to affect the success of another. However, there are cases where it might. If you had a couple of supermarkets next door to each other and one of them failed, then the chance of the other failing is going to be less likely because they're more likely to pick up the customers from the failed supermarket. So again, the assumption may not be valid for all samples. So anyway, we need some discussion of the two assumptions there for a binomial model and interpreting in the light of this story.